Hello guys and welcome back to Clockwork Dandy Noodles, the channel where Becca continues to break down the animes of this very impressive season. It's the season of amazing animes. Nearly every anime I'm watching is at a really great level. Like every title I think is proving good. So last season was good, but there was also a lot of okay animes or a really bad anime as well. This season, everything I'm watching is really, really good. So we're going to discuss today's episode. And before we go into it, it is a heavy episode, and I think I know how we're going to go with the breakdown. In the meantime, there is going to be some fun stuff going your way. In about 2 weeks, I am going to be releasing a midway breakdown. What are my top 3 midway through the season? What 3 animes have really grabbed my attention? And what are my 3 favourite OPs and EDs of the season? There are 2 EDs right now, which I just can't stop playing. They're amazing, and I really, really want to share them with you guys. So hopefully that's going to be a video going your way soon. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you can catch that whenever that goes up. Probably my favourite season so far of the year, but then we're only 2 seasons in. There is a Discord channel too for you guys to give a little like so you guys can get notified whenever videos go up. Let's get to it. This is I Don't Want to Die. This is a foreboding episode. Even last week I even said doesn't sound great this week. It definitely wasn't good. One of those breakdowns where we're going to try and be a bit more serious, but at the same time I want to break down the red flag because there's a lot of red flags. What little hand-me-offs do we learn from the scenes where they interact? Very foreboding open end at the same time. So we open on the end, immediately are in a very, very bad situation where we've got a sun going down. So the sunset is normally close of a chapter. It's a close of a chapter for this character. We only initially get the drone name, so we don't hear who physically died. I wasn't hot on who was who. Going throughout this entire episode, I don't know who's gonna die, which made it even worse for me. And especially with the way we open, we have quite a bit of a focus on quite a few of the background characters. It could have been any one of them. Vladilena apologising quite heartfelt for this death. Then we see a character, I think it's Rika. I do think it's Rika who ends up snapping at the end. What the anime achieves by opening on the close is all the way through the entire episode now, you find it hard to enjoy the happy moments. So it was really hard to just settle down, relax, enjoy these happy moments because I knew what was coming. I knew someone was going to die and I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. So it was one of those situations where the anime does very, very well at making you feel very uncomfortable very, very quickly, even though there's happy things going on. Just day-to-day lives, quite a chill open, which is very deceiving. Another red flag right there and then. And you can see Rika quite a bit, trying to look at who he was interacting with, whether it would give me a clue. I really thought it would be someone from the initial trio, or it was a girl. It was definitely going to be one of the girls, or one of the initial 3. First red flag, we might die tomorrow. Constantly throwing "we might die tomorrow" around. Yes, in a situation with these guys, it is natural. You would definitely expect them to be maybe lighthearted joking at it because you know they know more than ever that you probably will die tomorrow. But it is no truer words are said. This here is a little bit of foreshadowing because something is going to happen. Somebody is going to die literally tomorrow. The river scene, it allows us to actually get a bit of a indirect look at the scenery around the actual district, which is absolutely beautiful, as well as actually seeing some character building, which is normally a bit foreboding in itself, especially in a war anime when you're getting a quiet patch focusing on some anime characters. You know they're building it because they want to hurt you later down the line. Seeing the girls bond is a fantastic section. It allows them to also indirectly talk about Shin. We know that Karena likes Shin, how they perceive him. So most of them perceive him as the silent, stoic, quiet type. We finally get some peeping toms. Again, this is all just to lure us in. So what may in another anime be quite a nice scene, a nice kind of fun moment, I couldn't sit still. I was constantly feeling like, what's going to happen? I need to know. I was on edge. These guys might be enjoying life right now, but tomorrow, as they say, we might die tomorrow. So these guys too might possibly be on edge. Shin himself is said to read so he can take his mind off things. Otherwise he too would be constantly on edge. And Daya. I think I really ended up feeling for Daya this episode, which is probably bad because he's probably going to die next episode. Who knows? I think most of these guys, I think it's going to be an anime where no character is safe. It's probably not safe to like any of these characters. Daya, though, as much as he may scold the boys for their peeping Tom behaviour, he's definitely the one who seems very, very heavily interested in the conversation and what's going on. Finally, a scene where the females actually are ready to punish their intruders, their perverted peeping toms. And it's great. It's just funny that everybody's got a gun. They're right there and then. Rest in peace, Dyer. I mean, he might have been the one dying this episode at this point. It's a great, light-hearted moment. No doubt the anime is definitely doing this to make the later scenes have more impact on us. Generally, if an anime focuses in on backing characters in a war anime or a specific person, generally enough, they're probably about to die. And this anime does both. So initially, we start to be introduced to our characters and we get these nice light-hearted moments. And then in the moment, in our big conversation, the character in question gets quite a big moment. The girls, funnily, in my favourite part, my little favourite moment of today's episode, the girls actually start to have a light-hearted joke again, and then they snap back as soon as the boys talk and start laughing. It's that silence, the music stops, and then they go back to that interrogation of the boys. It is a great moment. That's my favourite little moment. But these guys, these are the trio of lovable characters, lovable idiots. I did think it might be one of the three out of this group who would die. And of course, only hearing the name at the beginning of a drone, not actually the real name, which is the title of next week's episode, I started to try guessing who it would be. I thought it might be one of the main girls, and she is technically in this sequence. I would have probably cried my heart out if it had been Dyer, because they had done quite well in making me fall for him this episode. He's just a lovable idiot, and he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But let's go to our first tone shift, where we see Kurana getting jealous over a conversation with Shin and Vladilena again, their conversations continuing. She wants Shin to stop breaking her down, where Dyer gives us a little insight that Shin doesn't actually want to break down any of his handlers. It feels a little painful hearing her say that about Vladilena, as we the audience know that she definitely is different from her society. Kurana is justified in being angry at the same time, because she's angry at the oppressors. She's angry at the fact that she's been forced to go risk her life on a battlefield. And it probably is really hard listening to someone you even like exchanging these almost falsities, odd pleasantries with somebody that will send you into a battle the next day, who is going to oppress you, and they see you as nothing more than just an empty drone. And we also get to learn that she's got even more reason to really hate the 86, because they committed some horrific atrocities, and she ends up parentless. It's nice to see that the conversation is now starting to include the entire group. Everybody's chipping in. It's quite nice seeing everybody bouncing off one another. We start talking about battles, shooting stars, pets, everything. Just things that would make it seem more normal conversation. As normal as you can get between oppressor and oppressed. The imagery of the shooting stars on a battlefield sounds actually quite nice. But we get to see just how deep the camaraderie goes with these guys. The fact that Shin actually finishes the sentence and he actually knows the rest of the story. It's a nice little moment, because you can kind of guess that they were there together. They do go quite far back at the same time, but he's probably teased him with it at some point. We do learn that Vladilena cannot see the stars, obviously. Probably got light pollution in the big city. The 86 may be a horrible place to really live, but again, it's the beauty of the natural world. They can see the stars. Where I am, I can see the stars. I don't really live in a big city, although it's slowly getting more and more built up. But if you go out, think about 10 minutes from where I am walking, you come into a beautiful field where it goes pitch black and you can see some really nice stars out. And then, of course, it clicks. We finally realise who is about to die, because our girl actually gets, of course, our big moment, a big sequence with her. Of course, it has to be, ironically, the one who actually seems to be more understanding of the world, a bit more open about the world. She understands not all the Alba are bad. Not everybody who is living in San Magnolia is bad. Obviously, there is these horrors of the discrimination, the hard life she's lived. She isn't forgiving them, but she does understand that not every single person is as bad as each other, kind of thing. She understands that not all humans are the same. It is a backstory. It is a red flag. We also get a very sneaky one where the Grim Reaper card is seen in the card game being played, and it's in her hand. It is a red flag. It's foreshadowing. Kai then tells Vladilena that she won't hate her, which is a very, it's a brave, it's also a very hard thing to say, but it's admirable. It really is admirable of her to say it. But the expression in the rest of the room when she says this is really painful. You can read the room. Another red flag, as Kay's last card ends up being the Reaper. She ends up stuck with the final card in her hand, which is death. And then we cut out before hearing her question to Vladilena. It is time now to quickly flip across to see everything from Vladilina's side. Don't really get to see the hard moment at the end, the actual initial loss from the other side, although I think we might pick up on it next episode, which is probably going to be another hard episode. It's a red flag initially when Vladilena starts to tell her friend, "It's amazing, my unit is great, we've had no casualties for 2 weeks. This is tempting fate," and it's also foreshadowing. Vladilena oddly can't work out why her unit is always ready in battle before she is. We start to get a bit more warning, don't go any deeper. Vladilena finally finding her team a map, wanting to be more useful to her team. Vladilena's reaction to the cat on call is pretty much me whenever a pet appears on Instagram or anywhere. If a friend sends me a picture of a cat, I'm just like, that's it, cat. I want to talk about the cat. But even quite tragically, the cat has a very sad story. But it's great to hear them all bouncing off one another, trying to name the cat. My bunny rabbit's name came up in the conversation. My bunny is called Shrimp. They tried to call the cat Shrimp at one point. I'm literally staring at my rabbit sleeping at a very weird angle right now. Another red flag is the fact that it's been too happy, too calm for too long in a war anime. We now finally get the reverse of the conversation. We already saw the conversation from the 86 side. The anime does this quite a lot. It shows us both sides, shows us equally the impact on each group. But this time we do get to hear the actual question. Why do you care about us so much? It turns out that Vladilena was saved on the battlefield and ended up being very inspired by the man who ended up saving her. Do wonder who that is, whether it's anything to do with Shin or not, whether the person who actually saved her is going to play a role at any point, or if they're even still alive. Where she even realises that she kind of owes her life to the 86. And to be fair, most of San Magnolia owes their lives to the people who are losing them on a day-to-day basis. Where she even says, we end up watching you fight without even trying to get to know you. This main episode really is just about build, and we continue onwards where we start to get Kai's virgin remark, which essentially comes down to calling her naive. She hasn't really got the best worldview in the world because she believes everyone's trying to fight for this ideal, which isn't always the case. And most of these people have been conscripted, so they're fighting literally not to die, hopefully live another day. Where she even says, you're not a bad person and you shouldn't get involved with us. And that's when she also says you're not cut out for the job, which may seem harsh, but I do believe she has a point. She really does have a point that with how Vladilena is, the fact that she does see them as people and the fact that the society she's in doesn't want her to do so, it is going to make things very difficult, especially the big bit we want to talk about right at the end. It's one of those points where it really doesn't seem like a very good fit for somebody like her who is actually pretty aware of what's going on. Kay puts it like, we're not all fighting for a noble cause and you're definitely going to regret it, so it's probably best if you swap out. Okay, let's go into the fatal fight, the final fight for her, the final showdown. It starts, as always, Shin is already in position. Vladilena is trying her best to help out. She ends up suggesting a piece of information about a high ground situation because she's found a map. The Hiroyuki Sawano score becomes more and more present in the background. It starts to creep on us. Vladilena's decoy move ends up impressing them, but there's also a point when we see her looking at the screen and there's blacked out lines. So more than just one person has died in this battle, but we don't really know who the other people are. It's unclear. It's really unclear if it's mixed information, whether the information that Vladilena gave was what led to this unfortunate tragic end of our character, whether they're going to end up blaming her for it. Well, they do, naturally. But there ends up being wetlands, and she ends up being stuck in a situation with an enemy approaching her. And thus we have the final end of our character. And Sawano's ending just kicking in right at the perfect moment, hearing her say, I don't want to die. It really is just a fantastic moment, and Sawano's ending was perfectly just timed. We cut as well to quite a very poignant visual where we see a red chair. We see the monitors in a cross symbolic positioning. It is rest in peace, sadly, for one of our characters. Vladilena's heartfelt apology, it hurts. It hurts hearing it because she, as well, obviously naturally got to talk to this character. And in a sense where normally it's just she doesn't get to talk to them or she just sees the black lines. This is different. You have made the effort to try and talk to these people. She's going to be realising the gravity of the situation. The people who knew Kay as a person, who saw her every single day, are gonna feel this. They're gonna be hurt. And they are gonna lash out. And this lashing out now, it's a very uncomfortable conversation. It's all truths. Naturally, it's truths. Obviously, she, as much as she may think differently, or she might try not to think of them in the same way, to them, though, she's still the oppressor. She is still somebody who is getting their friends killed. She still only just sees data on a screen. She's not seeing the human cost. She's not physically seeing the horrors because she's miles away from the battlefield. It's a very uncomfortable conversation. It's one I wasn't sure how I would cover it. I don't want to do it any disservice or try and back one person or another person, because technically I like Vladilina. I think she's a great character. It's great to see her carrying a different approach. She's a character who you can relate to because she doesn't want to stand for the injustice. She's in a situation where she wants to treat people how they deserve to be treated. It's a very difficult situation because at the same time, the 86 and we have the Rika's actual breakdown, the literal thrashing, his emotional outburst. You can fully understand where the character's coming from because this is a character that he's hung out with. This is his friend. He's had to watch another person die. It's a very slow build, this episode, to an inevitable end. We initially straight away know exactly somebody's going to die. I didn't quite know who it was. Maybe you guys actually knew the names and you knew who was going to die. But we even do get to see the character who ends up snapping and having their emotional outburst at the end as Rika. We see him. There are red flags absolutely everywhere. The anime is set up very perfectly to have the impact it does. We spend a lot of time this time in 86, where it's obviously going to hurt us more because we get to see the character in question as a person, living, breathing, having fun in that water. There's a lot of quiet, peaceful moments this episode, which naturally feel very out of place. It's one of those things where you can't trust the peace. So the conversation at the end is very powerful. And in Vladilina's defense, I think it is very hard what she's trying to do. She is literally trying to talk to people who she knows physically. Her society has hurt them, oppressed them. They've killed them. Trying to befriend these guys probably also doesn't feel right. It probably feels a little bit wrong what she's trying to do. But at the same time, all of her moral fibers trying to tell her to treat these people as humans and actually see them as more than just what her society is telling her to do. It must be really, really difficult. And that's why, to me, these conversations, when we get them, they always feel very uncomfortable. I know they're supposed to try and be a bit more of these down-to-earth moments, but they always feel really uncomfortable to me. So what happens now is the big question. Like, is she going to be able to even keep calling them now that this emotional outburst, this truth, it's going to be very difficult to respond. I mean, that Rika may never probably want to even hear her voice again. How do you talk to somebody who they've just lost a friend because you're in control kind of thing? Again, it's difficult because I can't relate to this situation. I've never been in a situation like this. Losing a close friend is going to be impacting these guys more than she could ever even realise. But at the same time, how do you break a society by yourself? How do you break a society that doesn't see the way you do? You see one way, but the rest of the society just doesn't want to see that way. Vladilina knows that her people are wrong. She knows what they're doing is wrong. She doesn't see eye to eye. She doesn't approve. And her apology right at the end, it's heartfelt. I felt for the apology because you can hear in the voice acting. The voice acting in this episode is so good. It feels pained. She feels pained. You hearing her going, "I'm so sorry." It was painful to hear it. More than anybody as well. It's probably in the past. She's probably doing more than any of the past handlers have ever done, even trying to just apologise, because you can guess that none of those previous handlers have done the same thing. Kai also telling her that she didn't hate her, didn't see her as a bad person, and her warning that you're not cut out. It's truthful advice. Vladilina is in the wrong kind of position. It's a very bad position for someone who is aware of what's going on, who does see these people as people. It is a very heavy episode. I know it's going to get worse from here on out. A really cleverly constructed episode as well. Painful. It's very painful to watch. It's only going to get darker from here. I've got two very heavy animes this season. To be fair, Vivi kind of leaning in that section. I've got Two Eternity. We've got 86, both playing in the more darker zones. And they're very difficult animes to talk about in general. And Vivi as well. Vivi comes out exactly the same day as 86. So I have two very heavy animes, which are both led by very strong female leads, coming out on the same day, and I just want to give them as much attention as I can. Really enjoying 86, But it is heavy. It's definitely heavy. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to my breakdowns for the flags, at least looking out for those red flags as well, and have at least enjoyed the episode too. Thank you guys for being so supportive of me during the period. I think we're now nearly back on track now. As of tomorrow, I think we will be back on schedule. Thanks guys so much for being there. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.